it's Future Vass here from Aussie RC Playground. Just to give you guys a bit of a heads up that Rlaarlo have actually sent out a discount code for this car, which I'll have in the video description, as well as details of special offers that they've got going on at the moment as of the time of filming. So if you guys are interested in one of these, be sure to check out the video description or watch until the end and you'll be able to get the discount code that you can use at checkout. Now back to the video. So here we are for yet another unboxing, and as you can see, when you get everything out of the box, you got the car fully assembled and ready to go. You have your radio over here. They give you a little card as a bit of a warning for those of you that are completely new to RC to mount up a front bumper just to offer a bit of protection to the front of the car. And then of course you get a huge bag full of spare parts. This is a list of all the bits that come in that bag. You can pause the video to read through that if you need to, but I'm going to be showing you through or taking you through everything that comes included anyway. So there is a front bumper that I just mentioned that that card kind of tells you to install. So they give you the instructions for that and everything. So just a nice little foam bumper just to offer a bit of protection on the car. You get some spare wheel hexes here, as well as some washers and some wheel nuts. So if you do lose any of those, you got some spares to keep you going. You also get front and rear drive shafts. Now, I have to say, I'm not too sure why they give me two bags for these. These could easily have gone in one bag, but you do get the rear dog bones and you get the front CVDs there. And then you've got some tools as well. So you have a little tiny Phillips head screwdriver, you have a little cross wrench and some body pins there. Now they give you 4 spare body pins. The car does only take 3, but it's nice that they've given you some spares. You also get a full set of spare A-arms. These are both front and rear, and you also get the hardware to mount them up as well. So again, if you have any mishaps and you need to fix the car, you've got that to keep you going. And then last but not least, we have a LiPo battery and charger. Now, the LiPo battery is a 2800 milliamp 2S battery. It does come with this cheapy little charger. I personally don't recommend these chargers because you can't put the battery into storage mode or monitor the cell voltage or anything like that. I would recommend you get yourself a proper charger. It's a worthwhile investment if you're getting into the hobby, but if you're a bit tight for cash and this is your first RC, that'll at least get you going and charge up your battery for your first run. And last but not least, we have the user manual. Now the user manual is actually pretty good, but there is one vital piece of information that they've left out of this user manual, possibly 2 if you count the ESC. Now there's a lot of useful info in here, how to set up your radio, how to charge your battery, all that type of thing. How to install the batteries on the radio, how to turn the car on, what all the dials on the radio mean. All of that information is here, how to drive the car. They also take you through kind of like a step-by-step of how to disassemble and service the vehicle, almost as if the vehicle came as a kit form. You would be putting on, sort of looking at these components and assembling if this was a kit. So it's kind of cool that they've done it that way. Now there is one downside to this entire manual, and I'll get to the back section here. So you'll see you've got all the parts listed here, which is great, but there are no part numbers with any of this. And I cannot see how you're supposed to order parts from this. Because, do you just go by the names of the parts? There's just no part numbers at all. Usually there are part numbers included. The other thing that's kind of weird with this manual, there's no information regarding the ESC on how to program it or anything like that. And we'll talk about that, why that's important and why that should really be included in the manual in a little bit. But in a nutshell, that is everything that you get out of the box when you unbox one of these. So starting off with the radio, as you can see, it's a funky looking sort of radio. It actually reminds me a little bit of the FlySky Noble, which has a digital screen and has a very similar looking drop down wheel on there as well. Now this particular one runs on 3 AA's, not 4, has a nice feeling drop down wheel. The trigger feels a little bit weird. It's kind of like in a strange position, and there's a bit of a problem with the trigger, which we'll talk about in a sec. It's got a lanyard loop just on the back here, and then on the top we have the on and off switch, which kind of just pushes in and pops out, so it's a kind of nice design. A couple of LED indicator lights, steering reverse, throttle reverse switch just there, steering trim, steering dual rate, and then it says here throttle trim, but this is not actually a throttle trim. This is a throttle dual rate, which means that if you dial this down, you're actually capping the top speed of the vehicle. So kind of handy if you're fairly new to RC or you want to give this to a less experienced RC person to have a bit of a go and you don't want them smashing into stuff at full speed. You can turn down that top speed with that little dial over there. Now, the throttle itself has a little bit of a problem where there's a bit of a dead band, a huge dead band on the throttle. So you have to press it quite a fair bit before the car actually starts moving. This has been brought to my attention by a couple of other viewers of the channel who mentioned it to me, and sure enough, I did test that, and I'll show you a little clip of it here. And as you can see, this guy has a bit of a problem with the trigger. Now the trigger is very close to the handle. It feels like it should be a little bit further away. So I feel like I'm sort of crunching my knuckle right in to get full throttle on it. It's a really strange position for the throttle trigger. That's probably my only criticism of this radio, and of course the fact that it has a huge dead band. But aside from that, there's no collapsible antennas. It's a cool looking radio. I think it'll do the job just fine. Hopefully it has a good enough range, and yeah, I don't have any other problems with it. And now, of course, for the car itself, as you can see, this is a very cool looking car, and it looks exactly the same as the Armour Typhon V4. I mean, they even copied the rear spoiler and everything on there. Very cool looking car. And you may also be wondering, how on earth do I pronounce this name? Because it's Rlaarlo. Now, the way I've pronounced it, it may not be correct, but I've kind of silenced the R and I'm calling it Rlaarlo. So that's how I'm saying it. Maybe I'm wrong, but you guys can try and do your best to explain it in the comments how you'd pronounce this thing. I know that names of RCs are very hard to come up with, and no doubt it was very hard to come up with this brand. I don't know if it's an acronym for something or if it's, I don't know, a mixture of initials from different people who founded the company. I'm not entirely sure, but the car itself is very cool looking. You've got a nice beefy bumper on the back here with the wheelie bar just there. The rear wing is actually very flexible as well, so if this takes a hit, it's just going to bounce straight back. You've got a beautiful carbon fiber chassis underneath, which actually looks really cool. I like how they've done this, so very nice. You've got carbon fiber shock towers just there, front and rear as well. The wing mount looks a little bit flimsy, but again, this is a very lightweight vehicle, so I think it'll be okay. It's going to work just fine. I just love how it looks exactly like the Armour Typhon, just a smaller version of it, and of course a completely different color. Now, wheels and tires, I don't mind the wheels. I think the wheels are pretty cool. You have a slightly wider wheel at the back than you do at the front. Obviously, being four-wheel drive, that's kind of standard for 10 scale vehicles or smaller, in this case a 1/14 scale. The tires, the rubber compound doesn't feel too bad. It's kind of okay, but the tread is kind of small, it's kind of shallow, and it has a very stiff sidewall. So what that means is you've got really soft foams in here, and you can see as I'm pressing, it's kind of concaving. So I don't know how much grip these are actually going to offer. Hopefully, being that this is 12mm hexes, I might be able to find alternatives sometime down the line, and we might be able to get some better traction here and there. But I think just for general purpose, just to get you going, these will probably do the job. It's just the foams are really soft. That's the only problem. Suspension wise, actually it doesn't feel too bad. I don't mind the suspension on these. They are oil filled shocks, and as you can see, full alloy threaded body shocks. Now I will say the rear shocks the collars on the back were wound all the way up, and these ones were actually wound down a little bit. So the car, when I took it out of the box, it kind of set squatting a little bit at the back. It wasn't quite right. So I've made a couple of adjustments just so that it sits a bit straighter, and it actually feels a lot better this way. So I don't mind the way that it sits at the moment. Body pins, there are only 3 body pins holding the body in place, and these body pins actually come with these little black tabs, which are kind of cool. Makes it nice and easy to grab the body pins and take them out. The body itself, as I said, an exact copy of the Armour Typhon V4. It does have this yellow sticker on here, which is basically telling you to remove a plastic film that this has on. So I haven't done mine yet, but I'll probably give you guys a bit of an overlay showing you doing that, because it's kind of cool doing it. And then of course you have the car itself. There it is there. You've got your battery tray over here with the Velcro strap. You've got a 2-in-1 ESC which means it's an ESC and a receiver at the same time, which creates a bit of a problem to try and swap out that radio if you want to fix that problem. Does come with a Dean's plug, which you guys know I'm pretty anti-Dean's these days, but on a little car like this will be totally fine. There won't be any problem at all. I am going to change it regardless because I use XT60s on pretty much everything, or anything that's, you know, up to about 3 or 4S. So I'm going to change it, but otherwise Dean's will be fine in this car. There's your little motor just there, pretty funky looking thing. Nice big long can on that as well. I'll put up some specs on the screen as well because I can't remember them. Steering servo is actually not too bad. It's just a little micro steering servo. Seems to be okay. It's actually pretty quick. I don't mind it. And then of course you have your steel CVDs all the way around front and rear. Well, actually you got dog bones in the rear, CVDs in the front. Steel steering links just there. You got steel turnbuckles on the top there and on the rear just there as well. So very cool looking setup, all fully adjustable. I really like this design. You also have a black aluminium drive shaft running all the way through the center there. And yeah, it's a pretty cool setup. Now, one thing I noticed as well, if you ever look at the diff bulkheads, you can see that they actually put those ridges, those really reinforcements, like they did on the Typhon cars as well. So it's they've copied a lot from the Armour cars, except for the actual swing arms and everything there. They're not using the pillow ball setup. They're using like a caster block and steering, what do you call it? Steering knuckle type of a setup. So slightly different, but a very cool looking car nonetheless. If you notice as well, there's also a carbon fiber anchorman just at the front here, and they also have carbon fiber hinge pin braces. So you'll see them there, and they also have them on the inside just there. And on the back, so they have carbon fiber all the way throughout this entire chassis. Now there is another version of this which I believe is coming out or has been released as well, where you can get the aluminium chassis version. So if you prefer the alloy chassis as opposed to this one, I think that'll be a pretty cool setup as well. It might be a little bit heavier, so it will be a little bit more stable, especially at high speeds, but this one being lighter, I think will be a lot more nimble, and will be actually quite a bit of fun to drive this and see how it holds up overall. Okay, so there's a couple of things here in my wish list straight away from sort of my first impressions of this vehicle. First and foremost is the radio. Although I do like the drop down wheel and I like all the features that they've got going on here, which is very simple but very, you know, welcomed in a ready to run radio. The feel of the trigger itself, where it's positioned, and the fact that you've got that huge deadband on there, plus the fact that you have a 2-in-1 ESC combo, where if you want to just ditch the radio and run your own radio, you can't do that because now you have to fork out for an ESC. So the radio is definitely top of the list. It's something that I think needs to be rectified. Whether they go with a completely different handset, or whether they just simply fix that deadband and maybe we can just get used to where the position of the trigger is, you know, that could be something that needs to be addressed at some point. The other thing, of course, is having part numbers in the user manual. I don't know why there's no part numbers in there. It just seems kind of odd, but yeah, I think part numbers in the user manual should be a by default thing, and they haven't included that. Now, as we take the body off and have a look under here, as I said, splitting the ESC from the receiver would be a priority number one here. And you'll see that the ESC actually sits down on this chassis plate at the top here, but it's not quite all the way down. And the way that it's positioned and everything, it kind of sits on the back end of the body. So it sits back here. It should really be brought forward where this void is, just to allow the ESC to sit a little bit more comfortable there. So probably a redesign of the top plate, move the ESC forward, split it from the receiver, make a huge difference. Plus, it would allow you to run bigger batteries in here, because one of the struggles that I found was actually finding some 3S batteries to run in here. And I do have some options. I tried a couple of different ones. I tried a 2200 3S, which I couldn't get to fit in here at all. I tried a 1500 3S, couldn't get that to fit either. And then I even tried a 1300 3S, which is this guy here. And this kind of fits. It's a little bit chunky, so you can't lay it down flat. I actually had to mount it upright like that. and I can sort of squeeze it in there, but then the body doesn't sit on the car properly, so it sits a little wonky. So it's not really the ideal battery, even though I'm going to get, you know, maybe half a decent runtime out of it. What I did find was the best fitting batteries were these ones, which are 1000 milliamps. Now, this yellow zippy one's a little bit chunkier, so again, it's a bit of a struggle to get in there. Plus, I got Velcro on the back, which doesn't help because I use this in one of my planes. But this one here actually works the best. I found this one to be the better one out of all of them. It's nice and slim. It's a 1000 milliamp 3S, which means that although I can get it to fit, they're not going to give me very long run time. Plus, this one I've got it set up with an XT30 on there, so I may need to make some adapters or something. But yeah, that's a bit of a struggle, mainly because of the height clearance that we've got here. We can't really fit very thick batteries. So if they move the ESC forward, they can probably just mount it on top of the plate rather than having it sinking down. And that gives us enough clearance to run some better batteries in there, some bigger batteries. So that's definitely on the wish list as well, just to accommodate those 3S batteries for those of us who want to go a little crazy on a little car and do some crazy speed runs or do some epic sends. So my thoughts on a Rlaarlo little 1/14 scale, little mini Typhon Speed Demon buggy that you see here are actually mostly positive. I know that a lot of people are going to be picking up on this body being a copy of Armour's Typhon design and everything, but this isn't trying to mimic that car in the sense of scale or speed. It's not aiming for the same customer demographic. It's just a little mini car that looks and resembles you know, a bigger, more original, beefier version of it. So I don't have too much issue with this because Armour's not going to be touching this scale, so it's not going to compete with anything that Armour will ever do. So it's, you know, I know it's a bit of a grey area when it comes to copying body designs, but to me, I actually don't really mind it. I think it's totally fine, given that it's not, you know, a clone per se of another 1/8 scale car. I like all the carbon fiber bits that they've included in here. I like the fact that it comes with a wheelie bar. I like that it's got carbon fiber in the right spots too, by the way. I think that's actually a very cool thing. And of course, it comes with a bunch of spare parts in case you have some mishaps or you want to do some tuning or you want to change some things around. The front bumper on here, I think, is a really interesting idea, an interesting concept for beginners. So you're not smashing up front A-arms and things like that. That's a really cool idea as well. So mostly it's fairly positive. This is designed to be a very fast car, and I can't wait to drive it and just see how quick this thing actually is, how well or how bad it actually handles, and whether or not I'm actually going to throw this radio against the wall, given that it's got, you know, the issues that it has. So we'll soon see how this thing's going to plan out. I'm really looking forward to plugging a battery in here and taking it for a spin. And just like that, we have come to the end of yet another unboxing. Now, I do want to give a big shout out to Rlaarlo for sending out this little guy for review. I definitely appreciate them getting in contact with me and supporting the channel. They also sent me a discount code, which is Aussie RC, and you can use that at checkout to get yourselves 15% off on one of these little cars. So big shout out to them for sure for doing that. That's a big deal. I'll have more details and discounts and things like that in the video description for you to check out, as well as links to my social media pages if you want to stay a little bit ahead of what goes on here on YouTube. But for now, that is it from me. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button before you go. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll be speaking to you all next time.